tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know what I'm here to do. I'm here to
Rock.
Yeah, join me as always, Xavier Guerrero.
What's up?
And on the ones and two, Jay Nice, Johnny Woodard. How are you guys?
Yo, I'm good, man.
It's Tinfoil Hat Comedy Week. Tinfoil Hat Comedy Week. That's right, 2 shows this weekend, so I hope you guys can join us. We're going to be live in Long Beach at Harvell's, 2 shows, stand-up comedy and Swarm Tank, and then we run it back again in Bakersfield, stand-up comedy, Swarm Tank. Johnny will be joining us in Long Beach because he's got to fly out the next day, can't join us in Bakersfield, so it's going to be a good time. I have now added a February 3rd show in Redlands. That's next week. I hope you can join us. I would love to see people out. I didn't get as much time to push it as I would like. Although there are 2 shows, right? There's a 7 and a 9:30, I think. Hopefully the first one will fill with some people. I just didn't get a chance to promote it like I wanted to. But I'm excited to come out and see all you guys. So just go to samtripoli.com. And then the big show is February 19th. Is the first ever live Brian Callen versus Sam Tripoli Conspiracy Social Club debate show live in Las Vegas. Myself versus Brian Callen debating your topics, what you want us to talk about. And then we're doing a stand-up show after. It's going to be a glorious weekend. It's going to be a last show. One night only. Come join us. That's February 19th. And then the Hammer of the Gods tour kicks off. At the end of the month, we got, I am in New Orleans, then I am in Nashville, and then we're in Florida. So Jefferson, Georgia. Those tickets all at samtripoli.com. I can't wait to come see you guys. Come get weird with me. Again, Hammer of the Gods tour is kicking off. It's a great February. So this week kicks off just the Hammers of the God tours, and it's going. We have, for $10, you get all the premium content you could ever want at rockfin.com. Every show I do is on rockfin.com for premium content. Then you also get some free shows. Just go to samtripoli.com. Just go down to see the banners where it says free content, okay? Hold on one second. And it's all there, man. All my live RSS feeds that you can listen to for free. I'm putting out hours and hours and hours, hours and hours and hours, hours and hours and hours. So much free content. Here we go. We got Sam Tripoli. We got Tinfoil Hat. We got Broken Sim, which has been fire lately.
Yeah.
Cash Daddies, Punch Drunk, You Knew the Unwanted. Backlog, the archives of Conspiracy Social Club, and my spiritual podcast, Zero. All available.
And Telegram has 2,000 followers.
2,000
Congratulations!
followers. We did it. We're getting some player haters out there, so they're coming on trying to muck it up. But
Oh, really?
yeah, they're putting porn on there, so we delete them real
Porn?
quick. Yeah.
Is it conspiracy porn?
Just
lizard
trolling?
porn?
There's
Just
no
straight
lizard porn. But if you want to find it, the link is very easy. Just go to samtripoli.com. If you want t-shirts, we're always having new t-shirts every month. Just go to tinfoilhattshirts.com. That banner, just click it on samtripoli.com. Conspiracy Social Club t-shirts, click it on samtripoli.com. If you really want to hear me, you just want to hear different shows all the time, I have a 24-hour radio station at samtripoli.com. And all of my specials. What's going on with We Don't Smoke the Same?
We just had a
one of FBI's most wanted back in the days for trafficking weed back in the day, Jerry Kaczynski. He was on the show, so he was a legend. Thank you for coming on, and I would check it out. He dropped some mad knowledge.
We don't smoke the same. And Broken Sim, we're recording another one tonight. Tell us, Johnny, how's it been going on the show?
It's good. It's good. It's good. A lot of atrocities, a lot of super heavy legs. We're going to get an update on Sam going under the knife. It's coming up.
Yeah, we'll get that
Gotta talk
tonight.
about
I got
that.
a big announcement.
Oh, big announcement.
Yeah, big announcement.
Interesting.
So that's it. I hope to see you guys live. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. It's about astrology. I loved it. I thought it was a great episode. And it's a 2-hour banger, dog. Enjoy it.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the...
All right, let's get into it. I'm very excited to have this gentleman on. He's done the Union of the Unwanted a couple times. He's been on my Zero podcast and my Rockfin premium content. So I'm very excited about having him on. He has a podcast called The Cosmic Keys. Please welcome Dan Shukis. Shukis. How are you, brother?
I'm good. How about you guys?
Just enjoying this bumpy ride that we call this reality, just trying to survive. What's new, dude? Okay, so let's get into this. Focus, Sam. Here we go. For those who may not be familiar with you, Dan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
So I'm the host of a show called the Cosmic Keys podcast. The show's been around since December of 2018. It's on Rockfin. It started off I had a co-host, and it was strictly like astrology, tarot, woo-woo, occult stuff throughout like 2019. And then when I took the show over as the sole host of it, that was during 2020. So I kind of just like latched on to the bigger conspiracy community and truther community. And since then, I've just kind of been trying to keep the show related to, esoteric, spiritual topics, astrology, but also going above and beyond to just like talk about this pandemic, the conspiracy stuff that came true, the Great Reset, all of that. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing with Cosmic Keys.
I love it, dude. I love it. Where can they find you?
On Rockfin, if you just look up the Cosmic Keys podcast or wherever
Any Instagrams or anything?
My Instagram for the show is at @cosmic_keys_podcast. I'm pretty shadow banned, so it might be hard to pull up. And then I'm in a band. I'll plug my band. It's at Moonstone_Quill, QUILL. And that Instagram is kind of the main thing we got going for the band. So yeah, those are the two main things. And CosmicKeysPodcast.com is the website.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man. I enjoyed our conversations before, so I know this one's going to be a great one. It's very interesting because before we started this podcast, we were all talking about the Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson podcast, and now this giant push to we gotta combat misinformation, right? And it's so interesting because I believe today's misinformation is tomorrow's truth, right? I mean, like, how many times have we seen that? I mean, whether it's the Gulf of Tonkin, the assassination of JFK, anthrax attack, weapons of mass destruction,
MLK,
9/11. I mean, all this stuff, MLK, all this stuff that what we were told by the Vegas shooting. I could just go on forever about what the official narrative was and then what it is now. And what later on, after people worked really hard to get the truth out, what it became. It's two totally different things. So it's like you have a bunch of people on the left that have lost their fucking skulls, that don't understand what they're doing because they're so lost in identity politics that they only care about winning and not doing what is right. And it's a dangerous, 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 dangerous road. So what do people say? The The path to hell is aligned with good intentions, right?
Paved with good intentions.
Paved with good intentions. Like, so the fact that you're shadow banned, you know, based on a conversation, I see nothing that would say, oh, this guy's dangerous. What you could say could corrupt the youth. I don't know what it is.
Look, I mean, that's a dangerous man. Look at him.
Look at this dangerous guy. And look at this dangerous wall.
We are dangerous to them.
Yeah, we are. We are.
We are dangerous to the propaganda and the narrative. So that's true. But are we dangerous to the everyday person that's going to scroll through Instagram? No. Like, we're dangerous to them. So.
That's a great point, dude. That is a really great point. Who are we dangerous to? Right? It's like, oh, misinformation. That's dangerous. To who? To who is it dangerous to? And the answer is to the official narrative. And that's what's going. And it's just like there are some people so lost in their pride that they can't come to grips that they were fucking wrong. And they're just willing to burn everything down in order to not come to that moment where it's like, fine, I was wrong. And I got people in my family. I got people that I love and care about that I promise you, I will remind them every day about what they pushed. You know, like I got a family member. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want them coming back to me. But this motherfucker's going to hear all the time what he was pushing on everybody. This motherfucker was the Paul Revere of vaccines.
Yeah.
Everyone has those in their family. There's
Right?
always someone that's over here like, you have it? How could you not?
Yeah, right. It's just crazy. So I want to get into astrology, man. I find this such an interesting thing because as we kind of start to learn as you go down this conspiracy road, you start to realize that what is up is really down. And there's been a concentrated effort to demonize astrology to make it look like only chicks you're trying to bang are into it. And when they say stupid stuff like, and you're like, okay, if this could get me laid, I'll be a Sagittarius, whatever you want me to be. But the truth of the matter is, like, that's been done purposefully so nobody takes it serious. And the truth, and you know, the saying we've said 1,000 times here, you know, millionaires study the market, billionaires study astrology. So it's like, where do you want to start with this? Because I think it's a very important thing to talk about. And it's like, I just did a really great episode on Zero, and it was all about the Akashic records. And like, if we're getting into that and what that represents, like, are the stars a roadmap to what is happening and what's going to happen?
Yeah. So the thing with astrology is it's really like right brain, left brain. And the right brain, which is like the more symbolic, poetic, colorful, woo-woo side of it, is what the chicks love about it. It's like the base version of astrology is like what you picture in the newspaper, like 12 bullet points, and you're one of 12 based on your birthday. But it's really like an all-encompassing map of time. And because we know the speed of the planets, we can know exactly, 100 years beforehand where a certain planet will be at an exact time. So that's the left brain side of astrology, is all the data, all the numbers. So, I mean, the way I'm doing it, like I have all of this, just preparing for this show to kind of talk about the astrology of COVID, the astrology ahead of us, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at just like data. So it is woo-woo and kind of wishy-washy and bullshit in one way and very poetic, but it's also like scientific and objective, because all astrology is doing is mapping the movement of the planets. And that's very objective. You could say today is, January 26th right now it's 2:39 p.m. where I'm at. And there's like an exact set of data that is measuring where the planets are. So you can by knowing the speeds of the planets and knowing where they're going to be at a certain time, that's very objective and that's black and white. It's like 2 weeks from now, the moon will be at blank degrees of this sign. And the signs in the zodiac is like a 360-degree wheel that we just use to measure where they're at. So when you're looking at astrology, you can look at the cycles and compare eras, be like 1982, this was happening, 2022, this is happening again. What can we kind of predict about what's going on? So it's really, really complex, but like you were saying, it is kind of like a white chick Instagram Lisa Frank thing. But these days it's like, it's also kind of, it's like I got a degree in economics and English, and it's my economic interest in like cycles and graphs and patterns and stuff like that that is really what I like what made me understand astrology better. So it's data, and then the predictions or the interpretations is that woo-woo, like poetic thing that's way more right-brained than the left brain, like data.
Guys, I want to tell you about our good friends at BudVac. BudVac is a one-of-a-kind vacuum stash container for your herbs, tobacco, and even your laundry juice, okay? It is definitely, wink, wink, not for your weed, ganja, chronic, reefer, all that stuff.
Mine's full of it.
Okay, all right. Every BudVac glass container comes with a vacuum pump to extract all the air, allowing you to store your top shelf goodness in an oxygen-free environment, thus presenting your herbs so it's fresh as the day you vacuum sealed it. All right, the secret why BudVac containers are so awesome is at preserving is its lid, okay? It has two-way air valve that allows you to pump out all the air inside the jar using the induced handled vacuum pump. How's that going?
Oh, it works great.
You pump?
Pumps it all out.
Got to pump it up.
Pumps it.
Come on, pump it up. Let's
go.
You got to pump it up. That's right, dude. When you're ready to open the container, simply push the valve open and release the air back into the jar. Okay. BudVac stores containers are all glass. They are the only all glass vacuum containers on the market. They do not leach BPA, nor do they retain odor like plastic containers. Fuck plastic containers, okay? BudVac containers are incredibly easy to use. Each one comes with a vacuum pump, or you can simply purchase the automatic pump separately. Come on, dog. When you're high as shit, do you want a pump or do you want little robots that do it? So say goodbye to stale, dried out herbs and hello to fresh flavor and aroma once you start using your glass vacuum storage system, okay? Go to budvac.com, use the promo code TFH, and check out for 10% off. That's budvac, BUDVAC.com. Use the promo code TFH. And we want to thank BudVac for sponsoring the live tinfoil hat comedy nights and swarm tanks. I find the term woo-woo so interesting because, you know, there's been famous stories about people who predicted the woo-woo, right? Oh, the woo-woo's going to come. It's going to take you from God. And, all, and I don't see that at all. I think the woo-woo gets you closer to God. That's just for me and my personal journey. You know, it's like I've gotten away. I was never really into organized religion. I just always found it to be a construct I didn't believe in. You know, it's basically Bill Burr's bit about we listen to this guy who says he represents God and he's got a gambling problem and he's like, you know, trying to hook up with everybody in his parishon and all this stuff. And it's like, it's totally true. And then, you know, and that's done purposefully. But, you know, as I go down this journey and talk to people like you know, Dan, I end up having this kind of thing where it's like I've cut out this middleman, which is like all I've done in my life now. It's like cutting out these managers, these agents, I have a great manager and I have a great agent, but like the playing into the Hollywood structure. I like in that is like the same thing I've done with my religion. I've taken out all these yes people, all these people, these middlemen between me and
bureaucracy,
God.
red tape,
Yeah, all
that
that gone, and I've kind of gone right to source, and like that is considered woo woo, right? Law of attraction, law of abundance, all that stuff, and that's the stuff that makes me feel like I am vibrating on a higher frequency. All that stuff, and like all this stuff you're talking about is stuff that I start to study. I go, man, that lets me know something else is going on. And to me, that's the God stuff. And they do it to demonize us. And so, and then you kind of go into the stuff, and I know I'm talking a lot, but then you start talking about, the stars predict stuff. You're like, this gets me in assimilation and all that stuff. So it's like super interesting. So where do you want to start, man?
So, I can kind of, I'm interested in kind of looking at the astrology of COVID and the pandemic and all that stuff, because so when I first got into astrology, it was kind of during a period from like 2015 to 2019. And that period was also a period where I was listening to a lot of podcasts, like tons of like the Greg Carlwoods, Gordon Whites, Miguel, Chris Knowles. There was like a scene back then from like 2015 to 2019 where I was living in Chicago and working a job where I was listening to podcasts all day. And with the combination of listening to astrology podcasts that would forecast like the month ahead, plus using like the app on my phone where I could like look at charts and comprehend it, I just kind of taught myself how to do astrology in that time. But the reason I bring that time up is around that time, my astrologer in Chicago said he put this in this, he planted this seed in my head, like December 21st, 2020, the winter solstice is going to be the beginning of the age of Aquarius. So that was in my head for a really long time. And I actually moved out of Chicago at the very end of 2019 because of astrology. So, in that period of time, all the astrologers were hyping 2020 as being a really significant year. And I even told some of my friends who like are not into this stuff at all. I was like, yeah, how I'm into astrology, just letting you know the year 2020 is due to be really crazy. And lo and behold, I moved from Chicago to Colorado and then just got settled in that January. And that January of 2020 was really the beginning of all of it. So what happened in the year 2020 that made it so infamous was in that January, there was a conjunction between the planet Pluto and the planet Saturn. So Pluto is like the furthest out planet that was discovered in the 1940s, and it represents just like death. It's like this far out planet, kind of destruction. It's like a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
So it represents death and rebirth. And Saturn, we know, like in the conspiracy world, Saturn is like the evil black cube, restrictions, blah, blah, blah. So these two planets are like gnarly planets. And the last time they came together was 1982. And that coincided with like the AIDS epidemic. It literally brought Fauci onto the scene back then.
Whoa!
But it took like 40 years almost for that alignment to happen again. So in my head, I'm just like, what's going to happen in January 2020? Is it going to be, a huge crash of the economy? Is it going to be a war? And so like when I moved to Colorado with my like superstitious astrology perspective, I was like, what the fuck's going to happen? And I was working at a bellman working as a bellman at a hotel.
I did that.
Yeah. And I had to deliver the newspapers every morning. So I was forced to like read the fake news. And if you remember, January of 2020 was that time period when Kobe died.
Yeah.
Australia was on fire.
He died today. Today's his anniversary.
Yeah, that's the anniversary. So that time, it was mainstream, like a meme, to be like, it's the end of the world, it's the apocalypse, blah, blah, blah. And that coincided with that Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which hadn't happened since 1982. Then at the end of 2020, which was also on my radar, I don't know if you guys were familiar with the Star of Bethlehem idea. That was, it's basically the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. So Saturn and Jupiter come together.
Real quick, before you get into Jupiter, I don't want to leave Pluto real quick. So a lot of people don't realize about Pluto. Pluto is also known as Gaga.
What?
Gaga.
I did not know that.
Gaga, yes. We've had Christopher Knowles on. He told us about that. Gaga, which is Lady Gaga.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
she said she got it from Radio Gaga, which is very interesting that, what was going on with Queen and all that stuff. He was into some dark shit, dog. So Gaga, he was with David Bowie. David Bowie was into the occult. So Gaga, she says she got his name from Radio Gaga. Gaga, Pluto is known as, according to Knowles, the servant of, or the messenger of Saturn. So that also plays into that as well.
That's really interesting. In the beginning of 2020, like in that January, that was the kickoff to this like pandemic, we would say.
Yes.
But then the other really important thing, just to kind of like give context to where we are in these like big cycles. So on December 21st, the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year of 2020, like after that whole traumatic, transformational, ritualistic year that they told us about, the Great Reset and all of that, there was this alignment where Jupiter and Saturn come together, and they came together at 0 degrees Aquarius on the winter solstice. So the time they come together every 20 years, and they always come together in the same element on the zodiac. So I have the actual dates in front of me. So with Saturn, Jupiter, they came together in the year 2000 in an Earth sign, and basically every 20 years they come together in the same element. So they were like Earth sign, 20 years, Earth sign, 20 years, Earth sign. So we have these periods of time that are like 160 to 200 years where Saturn and Jupiter are always in the same element. And on that day, on the winter solstice 2020, they did it in Aquarius, which is an air sign. And so for the next 160 years, they're coming together every 20 years in the air element. So we switched from like the earth element, which was that was kicked off by the Industrial Revolution, like factories.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It was like factories, like producing goods, shipping goods, railroads, like empires, like the British Empire was like peaking at that point. Now we're in the air element, and the air is up in the ethers. It's in the air. So what we're doing here, like talking through Zoom, having these networks of people, it's very Aquarian. Like we're in the metaverse. They're talking about the metaverse. There's the blockchain. All like money is going from being like a physical coin, Earth, to a digital electronic coin like Bitcoin or something. So the reason I bring these two things up is because, like I said, in 2015, the year 2020 was on my mind as like the beginning of this whole new period, and it really played out. And I suspect that like the people that are controlling this stuff, they know about these things. So they're like, all right, we're making our schedule for the Great Reset. It's got to start in 2020. You know?
Dude. Yes. All that 100%. percent. They read the stars and they play off that. Now, real quick, so if you let's just for a moment say that we believe in exosomes, right? Exosomes. We believe in exosomes, right? And it is not a virus. It's flu season is when your body detox from all the toxins in your cells. And they know this time, right? So what a great time to call something the flu season. It's like mating season. They know the times of everything. So it fits right into what Dan is talking about. If they know this time is coming, how can they manipulate it?
Yeah, and all the things with, like I said, January 2020 was Saturn, Pluto. They know that Pluto is going to wrecking ball what they've built for the past 200 years. So they know that it's time for them to implement their new system of control, their new world order in the airspace. Like, I don't know if for sure that there's astrologers working for like Klaus and all these people, but there's general knowledge that whether it was like the 2012 switch or even the 2001 new millennium switch, like they time these things according to the sky clock, because that is the real calendar is the stars, the planets.
If everything's pretty set in stone, is there any way to change it? Like if it's already in the stars?
No, I mean, like the stars are the stars work literally like a clock. It's like clockwork. So the ancients in Alexandria or whatever could know what's going on in 2022. Like because they knew the speeds of the planet. And at that point, it's math. Like
so
maybe if an asteroid, or maybe if like an asteroid threw the orbit off and then that permanently changed the speed. But the speeds of the planet and the retrogrades are set like clockwork. So we can't change that. So the elites know that, and the elites move with that. And
yes,
moving with it is neither good nor bad, but just like anything esoteric, anything occult, anything hermetic, like, yeah, you can time your evil bidding according to the stars, or you could time your good positive stuff with the stars. So that's why it is occult. Occult means hidden. That's why casting charts was always illegal. You know, Queen Elizabeth had astrologers, but the citizens were not allowed to cast charts. So it's occulted. It's supposed to be secret, and it's neutral. Like you could use it diabolically or positively. And a lot of people will say just it's all bad. The occult's all the devil. Stay away from it. But we're living in a time, like I said, like 2015 to 2019 was kind of like a renaissance of astrology, because there's apps, there's data, there's podcasts. It's really easy to do really advanced stuff. And when you do it for long enough, you're like, holy shit, like I'm tapped into the sky clock. How do I optimize my life knowing what I know? So yeah.
It is super interesting. John, you had something to say?
I mean, remember that ancient computer from, what is it, ancient Greek computer that they found at the bottom of, the ocean in a shipwreck? That
yeah,
and its purpose, was it could predict where the stars would be, as far out as you want to go, and it had gears. I mean, they had no idea that they could manufacture gears back then.
This one, the one that I pulled up,
incredibly advanced. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's
the Antikythera mechanism.
That's right. Yeah.
Holy.
So this is a very basic thing that was around in ancient times. It's an ephemeris, and all it is like, if you're looking at it here,
whoa,
it's just the data. It's kind of like reading the stock market. It's data of what each planet will be in what sign on what day, and it's set in stone. This is not going to change. So if you are studying that data, when I'm thinking about like, why the fuck was 2020 so crazy? Why is this new normal narrative happening, and why does it really feel like there is no going back? Well, I mean,
what do you mean by no going back? What does that mean?
Like we're in a new age. By what I was saying with the elements, like Saturn and Jupiter are not going to conjunct together in the Earth element for another like 800 years. So when these are the techniques you use to put context to where we're at. Like the phrase is as above, so below. Like as above, the planets are doing something that reflects what's happening below, but it's also as below, so above. So if you're in the middle of something on planet Earth and you say, what the hell is going on right now? And you look above and you analyze it, that gives context to what's happening. And it's poetic. Like you can't, astrologers make predictions, but like I've been predicting the crash of the economy for a while, and I still think it's like due, and the timing is right, like to crash the dollar and move us into a digital currency. But it's kind of like you have to play the long game with astrology, and the interpretations you make are prediction is not the only thing that astrology provides. It provides context for like what the fuck is happening, where are we heading, how long is this going to last, because it's all timing and calendars. So
it is super interesting, dude. It is like, so above, so below, right? So are we, because that's what they say about the moon, right? There's people believe the moon is a reflection of the planet Earth, whatever that represents, right?
Yep.
So above, so below, right? Then you have, so what is the real and then what is the reflection? Are we reflecting the stars or the stars reflecting us?
Your eyes reflect everything, right, Johnny?
What?
Don't your eyes reflect everything? Aren't we always seeing everything?
Yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about right here. What we're talking about is like, what is the actual thing that is happening and what is the reflection of that? Are we?
It's technically both. So the full phrase is as above, so below, semicolon, as below, so above. So it works both ways. We are living down here and just living our lives, and say something really good happens in our life, and then, life is just happening below, one way or the other. But then if you reflect upwards, you would usually find like a synchronicity. Like if something really good happens, it is probably reflected in the stars. So it's not just like the stars are beaming rays down at us and like causing stuff. It's like the sky clock concept we're on. And in my opinion, it's like God's time. God is like the way the planets move, like clockwork, makes you reflect on fate. Like there's divine timing for certain things. There are cycles that we as humans can look up and notice them and make correlations and stuff, but we didn't make the clock, like God made the clock. So it's used best to just visualize time and especially visualize like the big picture, and the symbolism itself is super profound. So if you live astrology, you just gain wisdom when these archetypes you become conscious of them. You could say, me being pissed off today or horny or rage, whatever is,
or both.
That's Mars. That's the planet Mars. And then so like everything in the human experience is categorized in astrology, and the ancients knew what was up. This is something that's like millennia old. And the crazy thing is the human experience doesn't change. Like the ancients who devised like the 12 houses categorize basically every major aspect of your life. And that hasn't changed. It's still like your house, your partner, your kids, your neighbors, your job. Like, so it's very human. And living it and studying it just kind of makes you more self-reflective. It's like to know thyself is to like look at the stars, think about what's happening, look within and think what's happening. It forces you to like analyze yourself and analyze what's going on. Like I said, if you wake up angry and horny and ready to fight someone, that's Mars. So then you say, what is Mars doing? And if you look at your chart, it might be activated in some way. So it's like a deep rabbit hole, and there's a lot of ways to apply it. But
no, I think all this is really, really on point. And I think it's like, the more and more I study this stuff, the more and more I wonder how much this is free will and how much of this is just this kind of cosmic hand kind of pushing us along in a certain direction, right? Like if we go through we live we're here in a realm, we're here to learn an idea, and we have a path, and we're here to learn a lesson on this path. I always go, how much of it is actual free will and how much of it is choose your own adventure, where no matter what you pick, you end up around the same place.
Yeah, and that's like when you do your birth chart. Your birth chart, basically the chart is the wheel, and it's constantly shifting. Like there's a chart for this moment right now. 5 minutes from now, the chart shifts a little bit. When you cast your birth chart, you're snapping a snapshot of the chart above you the moment you take your first breath. And that stays solid for your entire life. So your birth chart, the moment you take your first breath, it's like snapping a shot of the stars, and you hold on to that. That's you, according to astrology. So, and that can reveal so much. Like if you have a complex, if you have, it could be anything, like a talent or an issue, something good or bad, that's with you for your whole life. So the more you work with your chart, which is like your unique snapshot of like karma or the universe or whatever, then you kind of understand the cards you've been dealt. So if you have something really difficult in your chart, your life's journey is overcoming that difficulty. If you have something really easy in your chart, your life will just kind of flow with blessings and good luck. But some people don't want that. Like we come here to get our ass kicked and gain wisdom.
Yeah.
And the astrology is very like stoic like that. It's like, this is going to be bad for like a month long. Get ready for it or just deal with it. This is going to be good for 2 weeks long. You better make the most of it. And it's because there's like malefic and benefic planets. There's hard and soft aspects. So it really just like, it makes you stoic. It makes the hard times easier, where you're just like, this is what's happening. This is my timeline for this difficult thing. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to address it. Or if it's good, you're like, I'm going to book a vacation for that period, or I'm going to like do something creative for that period. Like, so it helps you just like see the year or the decade ahead, know that there's going to be ups and downs, and then act accordingly. And then when you look at your own chart, you're like, I'm always going to have this good or bad thing happening. So if it's a good thing, I need to build it up. If it's a bad thing, I have to rise to the occasion and overcome the conflict. So that's kind of.
Will you do the reading for someone?
Yeah, I do that where I read the birth chart for people.
So you can kind of tell what's going to happen to my life in a weird way. You're like, oh, it'll be good, or what? Yeah,
I mean, there's like basic ways where you just look at the basics of the chart. So I would be like, tell you your rising sign, your sun sign, your moon sign. It's very basic and easy to digest, but there's techniques where your chart is solid. You know, it's a snapshot. Then the chart that is happening to you is moving slowly or fast, depending on the planet, every single day. And when the chart above hits your chart, that's called a transit to you. So like if the moon takes a month to move through the whole zodiac. So that's the closest to planet Earth. That's the quickest moving planet. So if say the moon today could land right on top of where your natal sun is. So that's the chart above affecting your solid snapshot natal chart. So that's a technique for like predicting when certain things are happening to you. There's like lots of ways to like predict stuff like that. So like I said, there's like lots of applications for astrology, but I like to use it kind of to look at like current events and be like, yeah, what is this pandemic about? Like, what is the stars saying about these times? Where are we heading in this next decade? And that's kind of what I share a lot on my show. So, is there any app you would recommend? You said there's a lot of them, and there is. Is there anyone you go to? The one that I've had since like 2015 or 2016 is called Time Passages. It's got this. So it tells you just like if I click current chart, this chart here is showing this moment. And, an hour from now, it'll look different. So the chart is ticking like a clock, but your natal chart is a snapshot that doesn't move.
What do you just put in your birthday? Yeah.
So on Time Passages, like.
And what time you were born. You got to put what day you're born, what year.
The birth time is really important because the chart relies on, like, if you were born in the morning or in the middle of the night, that makes a huge difference.
I was born in the afternoon.
Like, yeah, how specific could you be? Like, what if my mom's like a couple hours late? Does that fuck shit up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he just said that.
Like that much stuff?
Yeah, I would just think that'd be the funniest movie about a guy who gets the wrong chart and then.
Or no, the mom just trying to hold it in for like another hour to get a really good.
Don't let him come out. You wait an hour, he's gonna be a millionaire.
Yeah, like my mom told me my birth time, and then I looked at my birth certificate, and it was like 40 minutes difference. So your birth certificate is considered like a very accurate birth time source. And so that's the thing, like everything, you don't have to be a person. Everything has a birth chart. Like if I pour a glass of water, you take a snapshot of the sky and be like, that's the chart for this glass of water. So the United States of America has a birth chart. July 4th, 1776. And because Pluto now is coming all the way back to where it was at that moment, that's considered the Pluto return. So that's kind of how you use it. You keep the snapshot of the chart and then the current chart, which is happening to the chart. So something is hitting that chart basically. And because the snapshot of the United States birth chart has Pluto at like 27 degrees Capricorn, which is where it's going to be on February 20th. And it took 250 years for Pluto to come around. So symbolically, we say Pluto, the planet of destruction, death, and rebirth.
Oh my God.
Is coming to it's here. We're in it.
Pluto is here.
In 2008, so that's when the 2008 financial crisis happened to the United States. And in the United States Sibley chart, that's in the Capricorn is in the second house. So that's the house of finance. So that's why I keep saying this period where Pluto is in Capricorn, it's leaving Capricorn for the first time in 2023. But this whole thing is the death and rebirth of America. And empires have like a 250-year shelf life. Well, the Pluto cycle is about 250 years.
Okay. So let's get into this. What is your thoughts? Do you think what does that say? Everybody thinks the empire is about to crash, and maybe it is a change of how we operate. Based on Pluto being here, what do you think is going to happen?
So, like I said, Pluto entered the sign of Capricorn in the year 2008. And that, like, I'm kind of looking on my screen to give specific dates here. So November 26, 2008, Pluto was in Capricorn for good. On February, so that started this long period of Pluto slowly moving through the sign of Capricorn, and it leaves Capricorn for the first time on March 23rd, 2023. And then it kind of retrogrades and hangs out, and then it's officially solidly in Aquarius November 19th, 2024. So from 2008 to 2024 is technically the whole Pluto return. Pluto is a really slow moving planet, so the death and rebirth thing doesn't happen just on February 20th. It's this like long build up, but it climaxes this year, 2022. So what is the symbolism of Pluto? It's death and rebirth. It's like the raw underground, like Pluto's the god of the underworld. It's the raw hidden like libido that destroys to make room for something new. Like sometimes things have to be destroyed.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying the United States will just be gone and then we'll be like China too or something, but it's gonna be fundamentally different going forward. Like Rome had a Pluto return, and that coincide. If you count the beginning of the Roman Empire as happening closer to like the year 1 BC, it's something like that. After that, like 250 year period, it kind of turned into the Byzantine Empire. So it was still like the power structure of Rome, but it has a new face. You don't even really call it Rome at that point. You call it Byzantium. So like possibilities for what could happen with this Pluto return. Well, first and foremost, it started in 2008 when we had that financial crisis, and it's climaxing in 2022, which is no surprise because look at the world around us. It's so chaotic. The narratives are crumbling. All of this stuff is crumbling. And you know, we were the empire. We were the petrodollar. We were the reserve currency. So
yeah.
that might go away. And it's going to change one way or the other, but it doesn't mean that America is going to look like a nuclear blast hit, but it's going to be fundamentally different. We might have a national divorce between now and 2024 or 25 when it's fully in Aquarius. We might not be the reserve currency anymore. We might not be the world empire anymore. But it's kind of, so that's kind of how astrology works. We know this death and destruction and rebirth. We know we're in the thick of it. Anybody that's been alive 2008 to now should be seeing the crumbling and the decay and the collapsing of America. And even symbolically, 9/11, that symbolically is like representing, you know, the towers falling. And so it doesn't mean that we're just fucked and that America's fucked. It just means we have to embrace the change. We have to observe, yes, this is crumbling before our eyes. Even like Charlie Robinson's book, The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, like that applies to this period we're in. So it's in our hands what the rebirth looks like, but the crumbling and the destruction, if you don't see that happening, you've got your head in the sand. So that's kind of what I see. Like I definitely think the dollar with the inflation, with everything else, with the Great Reset, they don't want us to be the main empire anymore. They want the New World Order. They want it in their control in kind of like a communist style. But like Americans are going to probably take the foundational principles of this country and hold, like it's those of us that are holding on tightly to our liberties are going to have a say in the fate of what the new America looks like, but it's going through this death and rebirth one way or the other.
I totally agree.
It's in our hands. So
it's going to change. It is of my belief that we have had a parasite elite death cult in charge since about the 1700s. And they've been pulling a lot of stuff, and they've been getting away with it because they control the media and all of the way in which they control the information highway. And for whatever reason, whether they created it and it got away from them or something else created it and they can't control it, the internet has changed that. And I think I think conspiracy theorists give elites too much credit for how smart they are. They do try to do some dark shit, but I mean, what we're seeing right now, a lot of people think, oh, they're destroying the narrative on purpose. I go, I don't know, man. It seems to me like they try to make a fundamental difference about how this realm operates, and I think it's failed. And because they can't control all of it. It's impossible to micromanage 7 billion people. It's impossible.
Yeah, and just the concept of the New World Order. I mean, like in the early 90s when George Bush Sr. said that speech on 9/11, 92 or whatever it was, like that was like right after they were doing like the UN Agenda 2030 or 2020 or whatever. So like this is like a multi-generational plan, and I think they knew that, like, given what the sky clock is saying about where we are in the march of history, they've got to try this. That's their deadline to do this plan is by now. Yeah. And I think it's almost like written even in like prophecy that they're gonna fail. Like this happens throughout history. Even the story of like the Tower of Babel in the Bible, like that was the New World Order of their time, and that failed. Rome was the New World Order of Jesus's time, and that eventually failed and transformed into something else too. But yeah, I think you're right, Sam, that like it's impossible to have that much control, and they can control us through fear or force. And the fear is just burning out. And
yes,
it's just going to be another failed project. Same as it ever was. And I think us in this realm, in this conspiracy realm, know that, but it's still intense to just watch it unfold, to just watch the Great Reset be given to us and handed to us and dealt to us. But I mean, I'm not too worried. I don't think it's even possible, but
I agree,
it's certainly
man.
Dramatic. It's quite the drama for sure.
I think I agree with everything you're saying right now. I've heard, different people talk about parts of what you're talking about. It's like, we're getting into the universe, we're getting into the stars, we're getting into all that stuff. And I've always said, it's like these people practice scarcity. They don't practice abundance. And when you practice scarcity, you pull love, energy, everything out of the process. It implodes on itself. And you could do it for a short time, but you can't keep doing it. And eventually it will fall in on itself. And that's my honest belief with these guys. I also believe what you're saying about they know what's coming and they tried their hardest to stop it. It's like, what else do you got to do? It's kind of like this, right? It's like when you go and there's like 5 seconds left on the clock in a game and they still run a play to try to Hail Mary pass it. And they're like, it's not going to happen unless you're Patrick Mahomes against the Bills defense. And they think it's better to rush 4 people than maybe 2 or 3 and put everybody back. But that's a different story, but So they'll just throw the pass and hope something happens. But it's not gonna happen.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask them this question about Pluto. Do you think they made it a dwarf planet for us to not pay attention to it? Do you remember when they said that Pluto wasn't a planet, that all of a sudden it was a dwarf planet, that it was just a frozen rock?
Yeah, I mean,
do you
I
think
was
they
thinking
did that to us to maybe, hey, don't pay attention, leave it alone?
That's definitely possible. What's your thoughts on that, Dan?
It's definitely possible. It's interesting because traditional astrology is based on the 7 traditional planets, which are visible with the naked eye. So like if you looked up, you could see Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury, the sun, and the moon. That's 7. But then when we got telescopes, we discover Uranus is out there, Neptune is out there, and Pluto is out there. And Pluto is a dwarf planet. It's still small, but for whatever reason, 1940 and beyond was when modern astrologers started studying it. And it's definitely a mile marker for this death and rebirth theme. And it moves so slowly that there's like Pluto generation. So you can use Pluto to determine what generation you're from. So if you were born between 1983 and 1995, that's Pluto in Scorpio. So that's officially millennials. If you were born 1995 to 2008, that's Gen Z. And 2008 to now, when Pluto's been in Capricorn, that's the little kids who are getting muzzled up and shit, who are probably going to turn out to be serial killers.
What's their name?
That's their generation. So Pluto is like a mile marker.
Z.
That's a Generation Z?
Generation
like
Z.
Your kids are Z?
Mike, no. Actually, I don't think they've named that
Not
generation
yet.
yet.
Alpha, like Generation Alpha. It's 2008 to now, because Z is the end and A is if you reach. So that says a lot too, because they program our generations. Like the millennial programming was different than the Gen X programming 100%. Or the Gen Z programming. So the Generation Alpha is really like the New World Order program, like muzzling the kids up and making them scan QR codes or put on hand sanitizer or whatever. Like that says a lot about what they think this whole restart of the alphabet could mean too. So
I completely agree with all that. I mean, I just think they had a plan and it didn't work out the way they wanted to. And then they kind of act like, oh, this is what we wanted. Then they panic and try to do a counter to that. And it's not. It's not. And, it's like you kind of get down to Hillary Clinton's election. And why did Comey come out a week or two before or right before? Remember when he came out, we're reopening the investigation. Why did he do that? Why did he do that? I mean, we have our feelings, but that threw a real wrench in the whole thing. And, you talked to some black pill, they thought that Trump won on purpose, possibly, but doesn't seem like it. Seems like they've been scorching ever since, right?
Generation Snowflake's the new one.
No way.
That's not what it's called. It's Generation Alpha.
Nobody would call it that, you retard. I'm done with saying that word, by the way. I'm sorry.
On Trump.
I shouldn't have said that word. My apologies.
He was
over
the
that
president.
word. Go on.
I don't know if you guys remember the Great American Eclipse in 2017. That was a full total eclipse that went across the whole country. And historically, eclipses are bad for the king at the time. So because he was the king, he was the president during that eclipse, and he literally looked at it and stuff. That's a bad omen for him. So that's why a lot of people predicted that he wouldn't win in this last election. And he's sort of doomed by the fact that he was the sitting president for that omen, which is like the sun getting blacked out. That's not a good sign for the king. The king is like the sun king. And it's interesting. He kind of put Bannon up as a sacrifice. Like Bannon was out of the picture after that eclipse. So a lot of people say he put in like a double so that he didn't get nailed by the eclipse. But when I look now and I see
What do you mean put a double?
Like Bannon took the fall and he was totally out of the picture, out of his administration or out of influence right after that eclipse. So in ancient times, I've heard that like if the king doesn't want to get taken out by the eclipse, you can kind of put in a double or like a sitting king to take the fall for him. So I've heard theories that Bannon took the fall of that kind of eclipse energy, but ultimately I still think that kind of doomed him. Like when I look at him now, he's like talking about how the vaccine is so great, how Operation Warp Speed was so great. So any of the remaining like Q-tard people should be thinking about that and just also think, I mean, he should have, like on paper, he probably should have won.
I think he technically did win. You know, I think he did win. I don't think there's been any moment ever, and I hate both parties. So there's no moment in which Joe Biden showed anything that resembled 80 million votes. Just optically. There was no moment where 80 million people showed up and did something. It just doesn't show up anywhere.
Did you see one person around here though that was voting for Donald Trump? I mean, I don't. Do you know anybody in LA that was voting for?
Yeah,
Trump?
I do. Actually.
But I mean, like just on the street, people that you don't know personally, random people.
Johnny,
but all those people
I get
are
what you're saying, but it didn't show up anywhere. Meaning,
I mean, I definitely think it was rigged, but I'm just saying there are a lot of people who just aren't paying attention.
I totally understand what you're saying. That there was there was a passionate group of people, right?
I think the places they greased it were in the not in the population centers, you know, in the rural communities.
No, but what I'm telling you is that this swell for Biden didn't show up in any other place numerically.
I never saw a rally, like a rally.
Data. There's not like ratings. Rallies.
No, I mean part of that. No, part of that is
woke. People
weren't proud to say they were voting. I mean, the guy's an invalid practically.
Yeah, but Johnny,
who's going to tell anybody
even when they didn't put their name on it,
no,
did not show. I mean,
I'm kind of arguing both sides because I'm the person on this show who said he was going to win by cheating, but I do think you are chronically underestimating how clueless a lot of people are.
Because I haven't seen it show up anywhere else at all in any way.
It's just so easy for the Democrats to get the big numbers because they get the cities. They just get them. They get them by default.
They get maybe New York and they get LA. And I still don't think he won California. I just don't.
That's crazy.
I mean, don't.
He definitely won.
I'm
telling you, the place they cheated this was in the South. It was in
San
Georgia
Diego,
and places
San
like that.
Diego.
Georgia was where they cheated.
San Francisco, LA are the only parts, and those are two big markets.
The biggest, yeah.
Right. But there was big pushback. Okay.
I think you're on.
And
the steal could only really happen like because COVID happened, like the mail-in ballots,
thing, yeah, that's where it is. Yeah.
All of that. So
right.
I think a lot of states have changed their voting laws. So I agree. I think they stole that election, and I don't think it will be as easy for them to do that this fall because who knows about how legit any election ever is, but on paper it seems like it'll be harder in 2022 because we're not so locked down. Even the total libtards are not totally isolating where they wouldn't go out in public. So I think they were using COVID for that election. But either way, I think just back to the Trump with getting hit by that great American eclipse, like at the end of the day, it's 2022. It's been a year later and he's not the sitting president. So that's still bad luck from a bad omen, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. And Johnny, I'm not trying to argue with that. I just think that this thing.
No, well, people say, "Oh, he got more votes than Biden," but there are millions and millions more people in the country now that were when
Obama. You're talking about Obama.
Than when Obama during his last election, the last time he did a national election. There's like a lot more people in the country.
Okay, so real quick, Johnny. So you see this love of Trump, but then this hate of Trump, right? And the love of Trump is a groundswell, and then the hate of Trump just doesn't show up anywhere else. Fine. So then you go into Hillary Clinton and the DNC. When the DNC was trying to raise money to fucking fund a campaign, they couldn't find it. Nobody was funding it.
That's my point, that he's not a galvanizing guy. He's not a guy who's going to show up. It's not going to show up in fundraising. It's just going to show up and people are like,
I completely disagree.
I just got to pull the lever for
but
this
Trump's
guy.
running again, though. You guys,
20 million more people in the country than there were when Obama ran.
You don't think he's running again, Sam?
I don't know. I think,
Why wouldn't he?
He just said he would.
I think he
says
would.
it.
I
If he's
think he
physically
would,
up to it, why not?
if he's physically. I think it's going to be a lot harder for him than he thinks it's going to be
Why?
because of all this. I mean, like what this country's been through, and then you're pro what this country's been through, vaccines and passports. You're basically pro that.
Yeah, but he's been that the whole time. If that was already factored into the last election, right? Don't you think?
I do not. I do not. I think that the love for Trump is not the same as when he lost the election.
Who else are they going to run, though, you know?
No, they're going to run him. I just don't think he's going to have the cakewalk or the. I think there are people that are waking up to this two-party bullshit and they're over it. And I think the right is more quickly to get rid of Trump than the left would be to get rid of Biden. That's just my humble.
Oh, they'll let Biden die to the end of it. They don't give a fuck.
Because that's my opinion. What's your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, just thinking about it. I mean, there's a lot to question about Trump in general. Like he was a wild card. He was the Trump card. He even just thinking of the name Trump, like the trumpets of the apocalypse, and it's like I think it's making me think of 2022 in the year of the Pluto return of the United States. Like if Pluto is death and rebirth, Joe Biden is embodying the death principle very well. Like he's about to croak. It's kind of like a King Lear situation where like for the Pluto return to be out with the old, in with the new, he's definitely the old, and he's like the most senile president we've ever had. And just he's like, the diaper shitting, like senile, screaming at people embodiment of being old and about to die. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, we've just been through the ringer of all this propaganda, all of this stuff, like with the January 6th stuff leading into them, like filming stuff at a movie studio, not the White House, barring up the White House. Like these are just like bad signs for the state of this country. And honestly, not, like I said, I've been predicting economic fall. Like there has to be everything that happened in 2008 is like covered in Band-Aids. They just printed more money. They kept printing and printing and printing. And they know it's a ticking time bomb. And I feel like now that the COVID narrative is basically done, we're going to have like a nice little break or something. And then I see the US dollar or the state as the reserve currency, or the state as the United States being like the world empire. Like once COVID's over, they'll be like, all right, let it crash. And then that's going to be this Pluto return chaos or just total collapse of the dollar.
What about other countries though? Is Pluto coming for them? I mean, China's having a lot of problems right now. Their economy isn't what everybody thought was going to be. They're having problems. They're having unrest. Australia's fucked. New Zealand is fucked. Canada, like Trudeau looks like for the first time ever, he's in some real problems, man.
That eclipse got him.
That eclipse got him, though. So
he didn't put in his double.
So
yeah, well, even like it's affecting the whole globe because the U.S. is the world superpower. We have been definitely since World War II. So because we're the petrodollar, like we're the reserve currency, if we fall, everything falls. So I think that's why it feels like it's happening on a global level. But like I said, I'm not saying it's going to be like a blasted nuclear war field across the land or anything. But when we kind of just need to, like I said, out with the old, in with the new, we have to just embrace it because shit is going down. Like, if you think things are just going to be back to normal soon, we're not there. Things still have to crumble. And according to astrology, 2022 is the peak of this death and rebirth process for the United States and therefore the whole world.
I got you.
We're the superpower. You
Where
know?
where does crypto fall into this? I see you keep saying the dollar's gonna fall out with the old, in with the new. Is that crypto?
So, I mean, crypto, there are a lot of really interesting ways to use astrology with crypto. The technology, like the blockchain technology, is totally part of the new, especially this age of air that's like 160 years that we're just kicking off. So that technology is here to stay. Crypto, from my like limited understanding of like Bitcoin, like I think Bitcoin is harder to just have a government be able to control. But that's not to say that the New World Order will come up with their crypto and force us to have some type of like digital ID or,
it's definitely a game going on
with
there.
the crypto, I'm pro crypto, and I'd recommend people keep buying Bitcoin, especially now when it's like on sale, because from my understanding, I don't think the government could just, like, the crypto is decentralized, and this age of air that I'm talking about is decentralized. So that's the good news. The ability for us to be decentralized is here. But in the way that they do, the elites are probably like, they have the QR code system. They have the passport technology. They have the AI. They don't want you to drive or own anything. They want you to be a digital slave. And the technology is already created for that. So I think they're going to let the US fall, or let the economy fall, or the dollar fail, then introduce their digital currency. But I don't think they can just cancel Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin and other cryptos will just remain kind of rogue and decentralized. But we know how many freaking sheep are out there. They will use the tools that they have to manipulate people to sign up for some type of like digital, I don't know, like Fed dollars or New World Order crypto or whatever, tied to a digital ID, tied to biometrics and all that. That's the bad news, that they want to do that. But the good news is, like, even us, we're here in the metaverse, challenging the narrative, talking. We're going to still be able to survive decentralized, I think. But, COVID is going to turn into the climate change lockdowns, or the digital ID, or the vaccine status tied to your digital ID, or even some shit implanted in your body. I think that's possible, and that could be on the way. But I still think counterculture and decentralized, like techno kind of like cyberpunk shit is really, we already have it. We already have the upper hand. Look at Joe Rogan. Like, so it's not all doom and gloom, but I do think
it's going to get rough.
What's that?
You think it's going to get rough? I mean, all growth, you have to go through it.
Yeah, and if you know it's happening, you just like let it crumble, let it fall, like let the dollar fail, and just buy the Bitcoin or whatever. And it doesn't sting as bad if you know it's happening. But if you're caught off guard and you're like thinking about the way things used to be, it's going to be a rude awakening when they don't go back to normal. So I think just the astrology is saying like they're the new normal, the way that the elites portray the new normal, that's not set in stone, and we don't have to fucking consent to that. But there really is no going back to the way things were. So I think the sooner we embrace change and
what's that change look like to you? Because when you say going back to normal, what to me was going back to normal is being able to go work out at the gym without wearing masks, having some fucking fat counter guy ask me for my vaccine passport, being able to fly without masks on because my ear hurts. My ears hurt. Like, what do you mean by not going back to normal? And that's not me trying to attack you. It comes off a little more aggressive than I meant it to be. But like, what do you think is not going back to normal? Like, what is that?
Just kind of like, it's really kind of abstract, but just from like a cosmic perspective, astrology, in my opinion, like I said, it's God's time. It's God's timing. God created this sky clock, or the creator or whatever. And the sky clock is pointing that we have crossed a threshold. And so we should embrace seeking seeking the good side of this new age, or this new era we're in, the age of Aquarius or whatever. That's inevitable because time is ticking. And when you're studying the stars, when you've crossed a threshold, and you kind of know when you should stop being nostalgic for the old way. So I think, like you're saying, the old way means no masks, no passports, no nothing. And now that we're on the other side of this threshold, if you live in a city, like I'm from Chicago, I don't fucking live there anymore. And all my family, I say, get the fuck out of there, because that is the New World Order system ready to roll. But how many other people are living off the grid, making money with crypto,
That's a great point,
getting rich, like doing whatever the fuck they want? So there is an option for decentralization. And if this like huge crash happens from the Pluto
that's
return,
a great point.
That's just like, this could be like a libertarian paradise where it's kind of like the Wild West, and they just say, fuck those red state regions. Let's just do the New World Order with these retards in the cities. So it's gonna be. We're already in like a dual society where two different people could be living in two different worlds. Like, so I think it's going to continue that way, and that's even prophesized too. Like even in like the Native American prophecy, they say, this Waitiko energy is going to take over, and then the offshoot will separate from it, settle, and they'll survive. And then the Waitiko, like New World Order people, will literally destroy themselves. And that's transhumanism. Dude. That's all of this shit. So
yes, dude.
Just like embrace the digital, not the literal metaverse, but like fucking Rockfin or
spiritual metaverse,
or NFTs or any of this stuff. We have free range to like do this like cyberpunk alternative counterculture. And let those fucking people move into their shithole cities with their passports and become transhuman, they, them fuckwits. Like, let them do it. But we have to be like, okay, there's no going back to the old way, because now I live off the grid and make money with crypto and fuck around and do whatever the fuck I want. Like, it's possible, but it's not going to look like
I love that, dude.
Public school, living in a suburb, having a nuclear family like the old way. It's going to be way more, just because the air element sweeps through. So you could just get rich off crypto, like in the way it just like sweeps through, and all of a sudden, bing, bing, bing. And then you could lose it just as fast. So the air element is way more decentralized. The earth element is like a freaking fortress, but the air element is like different than that. So I'm kind of just ranting at this point.
No, dude, you're really nailing it, and I think it's very important. So, like within my own life, like, listen, let's face it. If I hadn't become a content creator and gone all hard into content creating, I wouldn't be anywhere near I am right now. I would be stuck and probably, sadly, probably dead. I mean, that's just the truth because the options were fucking completely limited for me. I have friends of mine who have been unable to embrace this way of operating. They cannot do it. I tell them this and they just won't do it. They just want to do system entertainment. So what Dan's talking about is something very interesting to me. And this notion is like, if you hold on to the old way of operating, okay, you may end up part of the crash and burn. If you do not change the way you operate, you will be left behind. So what does that mean? Maybe everybody, maybe the days of having to live in the big city to work may not be what the future is. If we have a computer and we have an internet, can we do what we do all over the place? And we, you know, when we had the indigenous smoke show on, right, that everybody loves, okay, shout out to her, and she was talking about what was going on the reservation. And then we kind of took a look at what was going on in the big city. Seems kind of similar. And, you know, what Dan's talking about are, if you're going to sit in these big cities, these are going to be the new world order.
Yeah. I mean, look what Drew did. He got up, left, took his family, started NFTs, made money on NFTs. You got to figure out a new way to make money.
You got to figure out what is the new way of operating.
Do you think
a new way of something.
There is danger in getting lost going so, because part of me is like, what's the business going to be in the metaverse? Are you losing out by not operating in this metaverse? Then you got to ask yourself, is that the business you want to operate in? I think with the internet, you're going to be able to stay local, act global. Johnny?
It seems like this pandemic is it's having some side effects that they didn't anticipate, and I think that's one of them. And this realization that we don't have to be crammed into these boxes and breathe each other's fucking stale farts every day until, you know, because think of it, people, do you know people who like worked in offices like for long periods of time, still do, and they just get burned down to a nub, you know? I mean, there's just nothing. It's unless you're of a very specific temperament, it is soul crushing to do that kind of thing day after day after day. And just the freedom of being able to just, hey, wake up, you know, eat
grab
breakfast at home,
coffee,
and maybe
chill Bill,
see your kids off to school or something like that is enough to really change the outlook for some people. I would think. I hope so, and I hope they don't go back to
the
that.
only thing from the old that I find very interesting so what's the future mean is schools, right?
Yeah, I know. I do think you got to do that.
I think it's important for socialization.
Yeah, big time.
Because I don't think you want to completely get off the grid in that aspect. But again, it's like it's a feeling out process. But you have to be open-minded to what it means. I think the metaverse, as we understand it, which is, I think, 15 years away from really being something that people go, oh, I'm going to stay in here, right, is a very deadly tool for things you've heard before, but also for this notion that these psyops now can be done to you in like a real time. So we watch television, we watch 9/11, right, on TV.
Yeah.
Now in the metaverse, we're going to all experience it in this hyper real reality. And now it's going to traumatize us. You know, it's like Eddie Bravo and I talking about, what if now you got to get a vaccine in the metaverse?
It makes me think that, like, what if what we are in now, dude, is a way to just traumatize souls? You know what I mean? Like, this is our metaverse. And
no, 100%, Johnny.
But we're going to be doing it like, what if we're doing it like 5 times back? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if we get the metaverse here and we invent, and then inside the metaverse, you know, there's another metaverse, and we're just traumatizing ourselves times exponentially forever.
Yes.
And in the metaverse, it's not going to be called a vaccine. It's going to be antivirus.
Yeah. Well, no, they'll call it.
Is that a joke? I see.
Yeah.
You fucking.
I love that you had to get that. And like you were like the person who kept fucking up the double dutch, like by tripping up on the court because you kept jumping in at the wrong time. But the point is that there is something to like. I think we're all finding that. Hey, I don't need to be on Twitter all the time. I don't need to be on YouTube all the time. I don't need these system legacy, which is hilarious because social media is kind of new.
Yeah.
But the legacy social media, I can go operate over here. I can go operate over here. I can get off, read a book.
I hope you're right about that. I hope you're right that people are doing that.
Well, I mean, or go on, Dan. What?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, with all this stuff, it's like I said, whether we like it or not, we're in this new 160-year air period. The air element is up in the clouds. It's like Wi-Fi. It's digital. It's communication. Air represents your intellect, where Earth was physical. But like even now, with what we do with podcasting and with anything, like how many like digital internet friends do you have now? How many people, like, you don't need to go to your neighborhood and be like, who wants to talk about the Illuminati? Like, that's going to be hard, but it's very easy now to find your tribe, to find your people. And even with like the symbolism of Aquarius represents like the collective, like networks, social networks. So the theme is going to be, connecting with fellow man. Aquarius is a human, it's the zodiac has animals and objects and humans. Aquarius is a very humanitarian, community-based sign. So, I mean, I'm just thinking like we have strength in numbers. We, the conspiracy community, we already are just like, I'm sending voice memos to random people across the country talking about random shit. And my IRL life is totally disconnected from that. And I don't need it to be in my IRL life anymore. So I have like love and social fulfillment and human connection with people across the globe. And that's pretty cool, So from like a positive outlook, there are just endless opportunities to connect with other people, other like-minded people, and to find your tribe. And it doesn't require this like earth element, moving to the city to connect with the art community or the comedy community that's there physically. It's like, you don't have to leave your house. You don't have to physically go anywhere. We're connected now through the air. So I'm trying to have like an optimistic outlook because the metaverse and stuff, they are going to try to just totally control that, but we're in the metaverse doing this, and this is going to evolve to the non-Zuckerberg version and be really positive and great. And it's just the next chapter in the human timeline, one way or the other. So that's why I'm just saying, like, don't hold on to the old ways and think and focus on the positive sides of these new ways, because we're in a new age for sure.
Can I ask you? You mentioned, okay, it's the age of Aquarius. Now, why technically, and this is more of a technical question, why is there disagreement about when the age of Aquarius started? Why is that technically? I mean, like, what about the stars?
Basically, the constellations is what the zodiac is based off of. The zodiac is 360 degrees, mathematical. Each sign is 30 degrees. It's very sacred geometry. The constellations are all different sizes. And you say you're in the age of Aquarius when the constellation Aquarius is rising on the spring equinox. And right now, and that takes a very long time for it to fully switch, It takes the precession of the equinoxes takes 26,000 years, and there's a sign change, a constellation change about every 2,200 years. So like on the actual spring equinox, what's rising is like half Pisces, half Aquarius.
Oh, interesting.
So it won't be for another 200 years that we'll be like, yes, that is definitely Aquarius rising on the spring equinox. It's going to stay that way for 2,000 years forward. Now it's kind of, we're literally in between, and we're going to be in the in between for like the next 200 years.
Does that work like you think it might? That so when you're in the in between, the age itself has some characteristics of both of those signs.
Yeah, and
It's
I mean
basically interracial.
Yeah.
It's the Blake Griffin of eras.
And when Christianity came through, that was when the age of Aries was ending and the age of Pisces was beginning. And it's like, hear the good news, like hear that this man who gathered fishermen, you know, so that was like Pisces setting us up for this long age of Pisces. But I think like I've heard astrologers say, no, it's not the age of Aquarius yet. It'll be that in 200 years or 100 years or whatever. But like what I was saying, the age of air, which is based on the zodiac, which is the more mathematical exact thing, that hints at Aquarius because the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened at 0 degrees Aquarius on the winter solstice 2020. And that ain't changing for 160 years. So it is vague, but like 300 years from now, we will not be debating it. That will be the age of Aquarius for sure. Now we're kind of in the in-between, and that could last, the in-between could last like a century or two, you know?
Let me ask you something. So we go open up to the new, right? Like understand times change and open up to the new. So what we have going on right now, we have a lot of culture clashing going on, right? And how much of it is the old, how much of it is the new? My question is, even in the new, and maybe I'm asking a question, but I'm leading the witness at this point, right? In that, like, I think growth is great spiritually, culturally, physically. But if it doesn't make logical sense, does that mean we're just old school, right? Like, let's take
What do you mean?
trans athletes. I know most people don't have problems with trans. The problem they have is when they tend to overstep into other people's rights, right?
Like children and
Like drag queen
Sports.
story hour or trans athletes dominating female sports.
Like I just saw this video of a doctor saying, you know, most children make good decisions. If it's okay to chop your breasts off now, you can always add them back later.
Like that guy needs his ass
It's a
beat.
woman, yeah,
But
but
the
it's insane.
question is, that woman needs her ass beat. You know, the question is, like, how much of this is, and this might not be something that you can answer through what you've studied, but how much of it is like, okay, I'm just old school conservative. How much is it like, that just doesn't make logical sense?
Well, I think like certain things are unchangeable. Like I said, the ancients came up with the system of astrology with the 12 signs of the 12 houses, and those perfectly sum up the human experience even today. And what we're experiencing now is anti-human, anti-nature. Like when I say we're entering a new age, that doesn't mean that biological gender will change, but humans will change it because humans are flawed and fucked in the head at the moment. But like, yeah, like there are certain things that are unchangeable. Like we've had Homo sapiens sapiens have been the same since a very, very, very long time ago. We're still mammals. We still have biological gender. And that's reality. That's not going to change when the ages change. Like that is not going to change. But if you start fucking with our genetics and start being a transgender into a transhuman or whatever the fuck, I mean, that goes back to the story of Atlantis where they were like fucking with genetics and fucking creating chimeras and stuff. And then God just goes and then destroys it because it's such an abomination. We're there. So,
oh yeah, Oh yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario is God floods us because we fucked up so bad. And
I'm gonna buy a submarine just so I can ride the flood out.
If they think
So to answer your question, like, does thinking that biological genders are real make me a conservative or like part of the old way? No, humans have been humans, and we're gonna keep humaning.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Forward, but what's happening is not human. It's not nature. It's transhuman.
It's not logical.
It's an abomination. It's straight up. We don't need to be immortal. We need to live this one life, learn our lessons.
They want to trap us here for sure. So it gets down to that. It gets down to that, and like it is just like the notion that how we were like. I have friends of mine that are like so passionate about trans kids. They're just so passionate. And I'm like, that's great, man. That is fucking great. Respect on that. Okay. But there are not enough trans kids in the world to warrant completely changing thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years of raising children. Okay. Basic, primal, fucking like style. Like, that's what we've been doing.
You still haven't gone to like a PTA yet in LA.
No, dude, I'm not, dude. That's not happening. Okay? That's not.
Just imagine the
nobody.
He'll be president.
No name Tripoli. No one last name Tripoli will be at a PTA meeting in Los Angeles. That day will not happen. They will not be here. It's just a fact. It's just not happening. I have no faith in the people here because there's something really crazy about you when you want to run the PTA meeting and you think it's okay to usher in a fucking new anything other than protecting the children, teaching them reading, writing, arithmetic. Outside of that, you have an agenda and you need your ass beat. That's what it is, man. And dude, you don't need to be telling people how to raise their kids. This notion that teachers know how to raise kids better than parents is ridiculous. And that's where we go to the illogic. I mean, most of your civil rights movement over centuries has been live and let live. You know, whether you're a man, woman, you should be able to date whoever you want. Okay? You should have the equal rights. Now we got all that. Now these crazies they just want a little more because they want more than the last generation. Now they're getting into bizarro town. I have a dick, but I should be able to piss in a woman's bathroom. No, you shouldn't.
It's literally like a psychosis. And I mean, it's pretty clear. It's all about discernment now. Like, can you call a spade and be like, that Libs of TikTok teacher is demonically possessed maybe, or just literally belongs in an insane asylum. And that just says a lot about the times we're in. Like, to not appear insane when the masses, the mainstream, the public school teachers, academia, Hollywood, everybody's fucking insane. And the conspiracy theorists like us who are saying, yeah, biology is real, biological gender is real, we're all of a sudden deemed the crazy ones. But it just goes to show we're in this Pluto return period. Like, that psychosis, that mind virus that's going to destroy us is almost fate. It's almost fated that it has to get this bad. But those of us that are awake to it are connecting, interacting, coming up with ideas, and standing firm, like holding the line. Like, no, I'm not wearing a fucking mask. No, I'm not getting a vaccine. No, Fauci is a fucktard. Like, to say that a year ago was kind of intimidating, but with our strength and numbers, we're going to be like a breakaway civilization. And these trans kids' families are going to inject themselves and fucking change their genders and do God knows what until they just become an abomination and either get destroyed by God, quote unquote, or just kill themselves off. Yeah. Because this shit is not.
I totally agree with you.
That's not what being human is. Being human is like flawed and messy, and we're like really not perfect. We're mammals. But to all of a sudden be like, I'm a they, them dolphin. Like, give me my surgery, inject me, put a chip in me. Like, that's not going to end well. And we know.
Yep.
Dude,
from the mythologies and from all that stuff. It's like, it's the same story over and over.
Somebody a friend of mine works with, their pronouns are she, him.
Yeah.
And you have to flip a coin in your head every time you address the person, because if you favor one or the other too much, they get offended.
Yeah, well, they need to be fucking punched in the face.
Behavior. That is the type of behavior that somebody mumbling to themselves on a street corner would do.
Yes,
and yet here we are. They're the ones that are at the front of the line to teach your 5-year-old. So, I mean, anybody with discernment would not send their kid to a public school. I don't have kids, but if you see this stuff and if you met a teacher that has these values, you'll know that there's like a Waitiko or a fucking demon or something that is hell-bent on being anti-human, anti-nature, anti-God. And what does that look like? It looks like a fucking insane person. And those people are running the show, and they have been.
Yeah.
And this counterculture is solidifying, and we're going to be all right. We're going to be human. They're going to be transhuman and eventually dead. So
see, the truth of the matter is that people like this person that works with this person that I don't know who this person is. They are beta dictators who are manipulating a system through outside pressure. Okay, meaning lawyers and police.
Yeah.
Lawyers, police, and bankers are funding and promoting and protecting a small minority that knows what's going on and are openly abusing people. Okay? Like, listen, man, if you got to ask yourself, how much is your paycheck worth? How much is it worth to sit in the insane asylum? Because I guarantee you will find an equal or greater paycheck working somewhere that spiritually aligns up with what you're doing. And by allowing these people who have zero investment in the future besides their last breath, I don't know anybody, him, her, that thinks that bringing children into the world is a good idea. I'm sure you can find some dumb, okay, on YouTube that has kids and uses pronouns. Okay? Those people are getting 90 jabs and they're all going to have full-blown AIDS. Just know that. So they're not going to be around for a while. But most of the people saying him, her, fee, fi, fo, whatever was Owen Benjamin's joke. The point is that they do not represent society and they will die off. That's how it is. Nobody wants those people around them. Jason Gallern told me, well, I shouldn't say his name, but Jason Gallern told me they had a family, their friends would not teach their kids please or thank you because they thought it was aggressive. You know what I'd say? I don't want you in my life. You're never hanging out with my kids.
Aggressive.
How's that aggressive?
Yeah, because they're rich kids who just had time to think. There are people in their lives whose whole fight or flight is gone. Their food, shelter, clothing has been taken care of forever. Their minds are wandering for new battles.
You're so right.
And they're crazy.
It's psychosis. It's literally, I mean, and it's also the herd mentality because like some of us are just born rebels and they will push the envelope and will just be like, yeah, fuck you. Like I don't care what the herd is doing. So like even in nature, there's like the outliers of like a herd of animals and the outliers who are, like it's safe in the herd. So this is all just the manipulation of like, well, if they're doing it, I'm doing it. But if you have the discernment where you say, if they're doing it, I'm doing it, meaning if they're jabbing their 5-year-old and sending them to drag queen story time and triple masking their 5-year-old, like you're not going to survive this great reset. You are going to be funneled into the smart city or whatever and jabbed until you're like a walking graphene mutant and you're just not going to live. So now it's like, yeah, we're, like I keep saying, we're in a new age, but we're still human. We're not evolving to be not human. We're just humans in a different world with different challenges, different pros, different cons. It's a different chapter in the story, but we're still human. There's still two genders. This is still a world of duality, male, female, light, dark, positive, negative. And to deny that is to deny reality and create an offshoot satanic abomination of reality. And that's what we're in with these fucking, like, my pronouns is like reptile dolphin, or these people just are creating a hell world that is going to cave in on itself. And we're already halfway there.
They don't seem happy. That's the biggest thing. No. If you just look at them, do they seem happy? And the answer is no, because they're going exactly against their biological natural drives. That's not anti-gay. That's not, I'm just telling you, man. There are gay people who think all this shit is just completely dumb, okay? Right? So they're not doing it. So it has nothing to do with your sexual. I'm talking about people who just wage these stupid wars fighting fucking windmills are miserable fucks. Okay? You know who's crazy? You know is a woman with blue hair. Do you know who's crazier than a woman with a blue hair? A guy with blue hair, okay? He's a little more crazy.
Yeah.
You're changing your shit because you're not happy with what's on the inside.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like I said, each generation has different set of programming, and they program us from the cradle to the grave. And if you went to college, like I went to college, you have to take those classes where they teach you critical race theory, and that is the seed that is going to eventually lead you to full-blown clown world pronouns, fucking cutting your dick off. And to be fair, I don't think trans or gay is not human. I think those people who have always been around have been manipulated and turned into an agenda, into a psyop, so that, yes, people are trans people are valid, but when you're hijacked and it's part of the mind control program, it's a depopulation, jambling up reality and like turning things upside down. It's Orwellian. So trans or gay,
you get a lot of attention when you play this thing. It's about attention. So there was this comic in LA. He's the nicest guy. Was I would say on the outskirts of comedy in LA. Couldn't really get anything going, right? Suddenly comes out as trans. Taking hormone therapy, all that shit. Now he's announced he's got a modeling agency. He's got managers. He's got, it's like, because the system is funding these people and there's everyone running to them because they're virtual signaling that they we love you. There are people who this is who they are. But the funding of this is getting done to cause chaos, cultural Marxism. You are a pawn and you just don't know it. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't be a trans person, but I've just noticed certain people go from zero to hero when they start playing this narrative. And you see it happen all the time with any ethnic group in LA. They will start out loving everybody, and then all of a sudden you'll see them start tweeting about white men or white people, start getting a lot of tweets. Now all of a sudden they got attention and they keep leaning into it. Same thing with females. They're all like, female comics are great. Run around getting dick downs from everybody. Then all of a sudden it's like, it's so hard, male toxicity. And you're showing up everywhere and you're crying about male toxicity while you're committing toxicity.
Yep.
Right? It's so hard to be a female comic as your fucking staff of comedy clubs. Fucking married men. Right? It's so hard. It's just
even like that's like so 2019. Like feminism is so 2019 because in 2022 now it's birthing persons, and even the idea of like, what is feminism if women can just be anybody? So it's like, it's literally a psychosis, and the herd is psychotic at the moment. And if you don't have the discernment and the balls to step away from it and find the others, find the people who are not insane and talk about it and stand stand firmly in your truth. Like, this woke bullshit is Waitiko demonic psychotic insanity. Like, if you stick with the woke thing for money, that's literally the definition of selling your soul. Like, y'all are comedians. Imagine if at some point you said, well, I've got to be inclusive in my jokes. I've got to like virtue signal in my jokes. Where would you be today if you took that path? And how many people did take that path? How many creative people?
Yeah. I would be writing on a non-union show
because of the pandemic, like because of the fake virus. Like, all of this stuff is just keeping us down. And the sooner you just walk away and get ready to be in the breakaway, non-vaxxed, non-masked, off the grid, not living under this shit, like the sooner you figure out how you're going to do that for yourself, the better. So,
nope, I'm with you, man. And you know what it is, man? It's a quick rise to the middle. When you start conforming all that stuff, you rise real quick to the middle and you go nowhere because you're doing what everybody else is doing. And now that the mechanisms to blow up through these, and here we're talking about entertainment, through Hollywood is getting harder and harder and harder. Like Netflix, we said on the show it's going to happen. They're going to destroy their brand. They've lost $100 million or $100 billion. And now, based on Inside Scoop, nobody's blown up off these Netflix specials anymore because nobody's watching them. People who used to blow up off them, you just saw. Now it doesn't happen.
They put too many on there.
No,
Dude,
they put too much dog shit on there.
Too much dog shit. Yeah, just too much content.
When that fat chick with the fat ass that looks like a guy got one, that was the death. It was death.
Nanette? That special?
Yeah, Nanette. It was death.
The programming is supposed to be enticing. It's supposed to hypnotize you and put you at ease, and then you're just like programmed. But when I flip the TV on and see a woke commercial with like an Asian wife and a black husband and like a they-them 5-year-old or some shit, I just want to, I like squirm and I'm just like, turn it off. So like at a certain point, like I know TV and entertainment and movies and stuff is meant to be an escape. It's meant to like relax you, make you forget about your world. But I mean, for the past 4 years, I don't watch anything on any entertainment at all. Like it's all gone to shit. So that's the opportunity. We're in this alternative space. We're on Rockfin. We're shadow banned, but like eventually the good shit is going to start bursting out of this side. And then it's really going to be the end for the wokesters. Cause
they're going to be used.
Bad.
Yeah. They don't
it's
study.
so bad. It makes you physically feel like crap to witness it. And at a certain point, people are going to either step away or go full, transhuman woke, whatever that, and however bad that ends up being, they're fucked if they stay on that path. So
yeah, I'm with you, dude. Dan, great episode, man. We got a jam. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, so cosmickeyspodcast.com is my website. We're recording this on a Wednesday, but starting tomorrow, I've been working on an astrology calendar that has kind of like vaporwave artwork for each month of the year. And the calendar has data with all the astro data. So it's like a really good physical resource if you want to follow astrology. So that's on my website, cosmickeyspodcast.com/calendar. I'm also releasing NFTs of all those artworks. So I gave Mark the link. It's on my OpenSea.
We'll include it.
And yeah, Cosmic Keys podcast on all the platforms.
All right, man. Well, send me all the links again in the email to my email, and we'll go from there. And hey, man, great episode, dude. Great episode. Hope to see you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys see you guys in Bakersfield, in Long Beach. Tickets are almost gone, pretty much. to the first show. Grab a couple left there. Second show, still some tickets. Go to Barstool Bakersfield. We got some tickets available there. And then February 3rd, again, I am in Redlands. Come grab me. That's next week. I hadn't had a chance to promote, but I hope to see everybody. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.